Good churchgoers of Iraqi would host us.
Okay.
Linda.
You do it then. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, this report is seeking retrospective approval for the submission on the Shop Trading Hours Amendment Bill. The submission was lodged on 21st of January. It was opposed to the passing of the bill, which was in line with the feedback that most other councils around the country also gave, and in line with the position of Local Government New Zealand. The submission was well received, and we presented, well, Councillor Wood and Councillor and I presented an oral submission to the Commerce Committee in February, and the Commerce Committee requested additional information, which we have now provided to the Commerce Committee for their consideration.
By telephone, add that, by telephone.
By telephone,
We never went
yes,
to Wellington.
by telephone.
Oh,
Saved
George.
money.
Pretty strategic.
And other than that, we're happy to answer any questions about the submission or the report.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Councillor Brewer and Councillor...
I just wanted to get I hear what you're saying about local government New Zealand's position, but did any of the TLAs, the 78 TLAs, have they any submitted to support the government's bill? From your understanding?
Through the chair, I did a scan on the internet of published submissions, and I didn't find any. Yeah,
because there's some, as you know, in Marlborough and Taupo and Wanaka, Central Otago, and that have been communities that have been actively pushing for change. So it's interesting. The cost that you say that will be incurred, are you able to give us a bit more detail on that, as far as if this piece of legislation was to go through, what would it mean for us on the consultation front and on any implementation and policing? And thirdly, I was just having an offline chat with Councillor Cooper, and is it a case that there could be not just an Auckland region policy on Sunday trading, Easter Sunday trading, but if this was adopted, but it could be broken down board by board? So you could have one rule and how it can, for one in Iraqi.
The dogs thing all over again.
So yeah, costs incurred and local board delineation.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair, being circulated now by Louis is some supplementary evidence that we supplied to the Select Committee on some scenarios of how it might pan out. Obviously, this committee or the governing body would design that framework. We wanted to show how the new governance structure works in Auckland and how that could result. And using dogs as a bit of a model, we developed a ballpark cost, which is coming around. You can have a look at. The second, so that kind of deals with both of those questions, but yeah, that would be a decision for the council to make about how the local voice was represented.
Okay, so it could be, it's a decision for the GB to, if this went through, to decide whether it's a regional decision or whether it's a local board by board decision. We'd have that power. Thank you.
And the other thing was that Local Government New Zealand initially said, well, it should be just a council policy, but I think the bill says it's a bylaw. Isn't that how it works?
Yes.
So we've got to make a bylaw, so it'll be the dogs, revisit the dog kind of situation, and it's going to be costlier for council because of that bylaw.
So through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. The current drafting of the bill is that it's a bylaw. However, it's not a mandatory bylaw, so the council would have the choice whether or not to go through and develop a bylaw and go down that path. Okay, just one final question, Mr. Chair. The Shop Trading Hours Repeal Act of 1990 exempts garden centres on Sunday. They can open, can't they? And so this bill, the chatter might be, oh, well, this will be great for the likes of garden centres because there's always such a kerfuffle with garden centres. But they're allowed to open on Easter Sunday anyway. So it doesn't change the status. It doesn't allow for garden centres to be open on Easter Sunday because they already are.
through the chair, that's correct. There would be no, if we did introduce a bylaw and started exempting new areas from shop trading restrictions, there would be no change for garden centres affected by those exemptions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper?
Thank you. And I just wanted to back up the chairman because he and I, it was January the 14th that we met staff around this, and we hope that we've kind of reflected our views in here. Is it a bit of a, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but we were the only elected members around because it was a difficult time. But I think our biggest concern was that if you had a bylaw and you had to consult every local board, it was going to cost a couple of million for consultation. It was 100,000 per board or something like that, we said. Close, it was a lot anyway. So it's just costly, but also we're noting that just for the signage, for all the different dog bylaws, it's in the millions now for signs.
Yes.
You know, and we don't want to get there. And also if we looked at our tourism is increasing massively, and then you'll have visitors to Auckland turning up at one place and going, oh, it's not open today, and then go to another place it is. There'll be so much inconsistency. So we really supported the policy approach rather than a bylaw approach, and it was just another example of central government legislation or parliamentary legislation adding more costs to local government, which we thought were unnecessary if we took a policy approach. So I want to thank you for the work because you've reflected our comments back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Webster?
Oh, no, I was going to say exactly that.
Okay, so,
Oh, Mr. Chair, just one more question.
oh, sorry, Callum, sorry.
Callum.
Councillor Penrose?
No, Mr.
Oh,
Verga.
just on the police, the cost of potential policing this, if the good parish of Oraki closed on Easter Sunday and yet
They do, 'cause they're all at
Waitemata
Overbar.
was open, is it the government, is it the Department of Labour officials that go and would check up on the ward of Oraki? Or is it our own staff that are charged and have to be resourced to police that?
Through the chair, the implementation of the bylaw would actually be by central government through the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. MB.
So it'll be MB that would still be charged with it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Penrose?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. And as a move, as I said, as a mover of this, and I'm happy to move this for a number of reasons. And I stipulated on my phone conversation with you early January and in my email. But this would open a whole can of worms, huge can of worms. And I'm very clear for me that this sits with central government, not with us, for a whole raft of reasons. And it's been raised this morning. Cost is one part of it. But then again, it's the complications and too many fingers in the pie across the region. And absolutely, Linda, Councillor Cooper's absolutely right. I wasn't going to raise it today because I was going to raise it another time. But the dog bylaw one is a prime example. Prime example of it. You know, we're up to $400,000 plus at the moment. We've got 146 different signs, but I'll take the opportunity while I'm at the table at the moment. 146 different signs at the moment and climbing with different signage for the region. We still haven't yet completed all the local board stuff yet, but it's going to be probably sitting around about $1.1 million by the time we finish that signage across the region. And then, of course, different rules, different regulations, and how we're going to enforce it. We can't. So it's a discussion, Mr. Chair, I'll be bringing back to the table soon. So again, I welcome this and, yep, happy to move it.
Thank you, and it's been seconded by Councillor Nye.
Oh, can I,
So,
are we making comments or
well, yeah. Okay.
am I
okay,
allowed a
okay, we
speaking
haven't-
spot today?
Haven't put the
Mr. Chair?
motion, okay, okay.
I normally fight for my sole speaking spots about every 2
Okay,
days, but
Pretty spoken.
thank you. Oh, I've already spoken,
Well, you
Councillor
asked
Cooper.
questions, I suppose.
Look, I think another issue here that those of us, well, all of us that have got contacts with our local MPs and that is the fact that this, if this goes, this should be a conscience vote, not a government bill. And I put it to you, as have other groups, that the Shop Trading Hours Repeal Act of 1990, which set up the 3.5 days of shop free, was a conscience vote. And the nature of this, it should be a conscience vote, not a government bill, not a block vote. Because if it was a conscience vote, it would be defeated because the cynics would be able to can see that there's dare I say, too many ex-ministers of the church and Roman Catholics in the National Party caucus for it to ever go ahead. And so I'd like to see this as a conscience vote. That is worthy of that. 75 to 45 it went through to committee stage in November. And I certainly think we should be pushing those in control of this to open this up as a conscience vote. I just want to put on the table that it is not, as the submission has said, our 21 January submission has said, there is not overwhelming evidence that the current law is not working. And I think we can see here that the 3.5 days that we've been reduced to as shop-free seems to be working. And if there are issues where Rotorua gets an exemption and Taupo doesn't, and Queenstown gets an exemption and Wanaka doesn't, then as the submission has articulated, Mr. Chairman, the government needs to draw up a bill that might broaden those tourist areas for exemptions rather than dropping us all in. So I'm concerned that this is again an example of local government being lumped with another cost here and another responsibility that's well outside our mandate. There's been about 12 successive attempts since 1990 to repeal the Shop Trading Hours Act, and all have failed. The government gets it in the air every Easter, particularly that it's a sham, the current legislation. But normally when you see it, it's people like Oderings and other garden centres that are breaking the law on the Sunday, and this law doesn't change anything because, on the Friday, because they are allowed to open on the Sunday. So by trying to change things on Sunday is not going to address the garden centre issue. So I think this government move would only add to more inconsistency and confusion, not less. And I certainly call upon all of you to, if you are concerned about this going through, and currently it is set to go through, they've got the numbers, that it should be a conscience vote. And let's see how the likes of Bill English and others vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.